Welcome. So obviously I'm not Nestor. I may look quite a bit like him, but I'm not Nestor. So I'm his opening act. I can't sing, I can't dance. You'll see that with him, I'm sure. More talent there. But I just wanted to touch base on an area I think that complements Nestor's topic, but also a slightly different spin on it, right? Something that, that I'm sure you've all thought about. I don't know how well that you've got a grip yet on this, on the concept here of understanding your end users and the impact. But as you can see my splash screen, it's actually more than that, right? What this is saying is that us in IT, everything we do, the networks we support, the infrastructure, the applications, everything we do is about the business and about the end user, right? We're trying to be relevant to the business, not just a cost of doing business in IT today. Users and applications, they are the center of any business and of any transformation that you're undergoing today. And I'm sure there's several, and we're going to touch on that too. So what's the impact that change is going to have on your business? Good, bad, stay the same, right? Is it as you intended it to be? Very, very important. It's all around the applications flowing over our network and the end users. At the same time, if that's true, why are we struggling? Why are we having such a difficult time still today managing the end user's expectations that we deliver day in and day out with our infrastructure? Well, here's one of the reasons. Think of the amount of change and pressure that we're under. You may have noticed that our jobs are not getting easier, right? There's a lot of complexity. It continues to grow. The complexity does. You know, whether you talk about all the different environments, all the different vendors maybe you need to partner with and interact with, et cetera, right? Not to mention the expectations of the end users and of the business. It doesn't slow down. They continue to push on us, right, and demand more. Some of these may ring a bell for you that you're going under now or that you're involved with now. Very, very expensive projects, critical to the business, critical for our roles as well. How do you plan on moving forward with confidence? I mean, you're going to move forward one way or another. How can you do it with confidence? How can you know as you're making some of these changes what before looks like, what normal looks like, and what the impact that your change had? You're going to be just guessing unless you can actually measure the pulse of the end user and their experience. This is what we often end up with. Kind of look familiar on the right? Right? We have SLAs we're trying to achieve, and most of our SLAs are based on availability, uptime, et cetera. But yet our users are still complaining. How can that be? This has been going on for quite some time. Good enough, guys, today is not good enough anymore. We've got to do something different. We've got to improve on that. We have to be able to see each and every end user, understand the different applications that are going across our infrastructure, right? And the experience for every user, for every application, even every interaction they have as well. We want to be able to see and review all applications for all users, identify the business activities they're trying to perform, and track those response times according to what normal looks like, and if it deviates from normal, right? You're thinking, how's that going to be possible? Not to mention, let's make it as easy as possible, because we want immediate validation. We want to understand a trend. We want to know when we've made our changes, right? When we're rolling anything, whatever the change may be, infrastructure, network change itself, it may be an application version, it could be pretty much anything. And to understand that, you want to be able to compare. And as you can see here on this screen, we've got some of the color coding there where we're looking at response times, measuring from the end user device. We're seeing the network, and we're seeing the back end. And we're able to separate that out for you, which, here's the magic, right? Exonerate the network. End users don't care what the problem is. All they know is they're frustrated, they're having issues, and the network's slow, is what you hear, day in and day out. With one quick view, you can exonerate the network. Or maybe it is the change you made, and you'll know immediately, right? So it's not running around trying to figure it out. you know immediately the impact that the change has had. You can understand over time. So often you may stage in some of these changes, right? You may phase them in, and to be able to see in increments over time the impact based on what normal looks like. And if you so desire, you can even see the volume of activity here. And the part that I think is really helpful here is identifying whether or not, from a revenue perspective or from a cost perspective, if you're contributing to the business here with the change, if it's improved things, if it met your intent, right? Or if it's going to cost money. Also, that's a great way to look at it for continuous improvement, right? How can we do things better? Here's the way it is today. Here's what the cost looks like. And identify and be proactive on the areas that you make changes to. How do we do that? The only way to accomplish some of these things I'm showing you, right, is to do it from click to render. So measure the real user experience from the source. All users, right, you want to understand the user experience, the financial impact, who's using what applications, and how are they using them. Automatic baselines, what does normal look like? That's established for you. How hard is that to determine today? You just kind of guess, right? Response time should be 5 seconds. There's a shot in the dark. Do you see how others may be doing it in your industry? Possibly, right? What if you actually knew for sure for every user across all applications, all locations, etc.? You could also draw a line in the sand, create your own SLAs, your own goals, and see if you can achieve those. Be able to understand change impact is what we've been talking about, troubleshoot, etc., right? And any of the supporting metrics that go with that. So it's one thing for a user to be frustrated receiving errors, or maybe it's very slow. It's another thing to be able to directly relate that to, it's all on the client side. It is the network. Nah, probably not, right? Or is it somewhere on the back end, server, code level? To be able to quickly do that and everything in between, and in context relate that user experience to these metrics. Integrate with call tracking, very, very important as well, right? So you understand the impact there and that you're making improvements as you go. Automatic remediation for you, and then seamlessly integrate into the existing technologies that you may have today or through Riverbed itself. What if you could monitor all your users, not just some, not just for one application, because it's a web app, let's say, right? What if it's all applications from no matter where they are, site, region, department, no matter what business unit, what floor they're on, right? If you were able to do that and separate it out by those different attributes across all modern devices, Windows, Mac, Android, physical, virtual, right, mobile, in all applications. Yes, thick client too, not just web, all applications. Mobile, virtual, hosted, cloud, etc., right? And in some cases, be able to monitor and follow that through the back end, all tiers. We can do this in a couple ways I'm going to touch on. To be able to provide value, a technology like this that can provide value not just to one group, maybe just to your group, and a lot of times that may be the way that you start off, right? Solving and using it for certain initiatives that you have. But to be able to contribute across your enterprise, technology like this, right, becomes very contagious when it adds value across. You wouldn't be the first one to try it. Proven technology, no guinea pigs, right? It's not trial and error. This is what we do for a living. We can help you as well. This technology, the end user experience piece that we've been talking about, plays right into the Riverbed Still Central suite of technologies, modular based, right? Has complete horizontal integration. So from end user all the way through to back end, as we talked about, infrastructure, network, etc., right? As well as all of these become data sources that roll up into the single view, role-based view for you. We can approach it agent-based or passively remote monitoring, and most often a combination of both. We can roll it all and make it very, very simple, roll it all together. Often we'll create a view similar to this for executives that stays green all the time, static view. Come on, can I get an amen? right? Or maybe something a little more valuable for you, combining impact to the business with your interfaces, right? Your devices, your network, right? And understanding that impact. And we give you a chance to try it for free. You hit that link, you fill out that little simple form, and you get instant access to a working demonstration environment with data flowing in. And it has a walk me, kind of walks you through. Thank you for your time. Again, I'm the opening act. Here's the man of the hour.
No, that one.
You good?
Let's make sure it works. All right. Well, you guys have made it to the last session of the last day. So entertain me for a second. Everybody stand up. Stand up. We're going to play a little game. And you should know what it is. If you don't, look at your neighbor and figure it out. It's Simon Says. Okay? Real simple.
Awesome.
Simon says, raise your left hand. Simon says, raise your right hand. Drop both hands. Oh. But seriously, drop your hands. Okay, you go ahead and sit down now.
I think so.
Sit down, Myron. Thank you. Yes, Simon says sit down. But the intent that we're talking about, so in the past year and a half or so, the conversations I've been having with customers are just around that. What is intent-based network? And this example that we just did, what do you think my intent was? It was to entertain you guys, and just when you're drinking, like, this crazy guy was asking us to play Simon Says at his breakout. It didn't have anything to do with technology, and I let you guys implement it or instantiate it however you see fit. I didn't say, raise your right hand in this way, lower it this way. I just said, do something. But my intent was not even technically related. It was business related. I want you guys to remember who I am and at least get a chuckle. So again, I got 15 minutes or so. This is a distilled version of what I normally do for the last year and a half, like I said, in about an hour. What is IBN? Again, people confuse IBN with other acronyms, but we'll go there. Why are customers not running toward it? What are the current challenges around intent-based networking? All right, what are the steps? What is actually underneath this platform? And then, great, you convinced me. I'm going to buy IBN. Now what? So first, let's get some definitions. What is intent-based networking? Intent-based networking, at its core, is translating the what and the why. From Jocko earlier, yesterday, you have to understand the why. If you're going to do something, explain to me the context around which you're asking me to do this action. So again, in case of a network, as this example would be, I want to be able to absorb 1,000 new students coming on campus. How it gets done, that's not my concern as far as being a business objective. My objective is I have all these influx of students, make sure they're secure, they're happy, and they're fast. The secondary, that middle piece, the what, that's the platform that we're going to, various vendors come, you can think of like Cisco has their DNA center, HP has theirs, VMware has theirs. That is the middle part, the guts. And then the output of the actual execution, the tactical syntax of, show, run, interface, whatever. But again, the intent is the very beginning. Why are we doing something? What is the purpose behind it? I was reflecting on this slide, actually, again, earlier from this morning when Mike, the futurist, the guy with long hair, funky accent, he's like, what are we afraid of? Not the guy next to you or the girl next to you, it's the 8-year-old. Well, when my daughter looks at the way we run networks, they'll be like, this is stupid. Your networks are dumb. You're actually punching away at keyboards and yelling something's not working. They'll be in a place where they just think everything's automatic, everything's self-healing. The closest thing right now is your faucet, your water. Do you actually ever think, hey, it might not work? The pumps at the substation, the subsystems, all the valves, you don't assume any of that stuff is going to break. It's just turn on the faucet and it works. Your intent, again, I'm going to wash my hands, take a shower, whatever. That's where it's going to be in the future, where the network is just in the background. It's a platform to do other things. So we keep saying intent. Intent is key, right? You heard it earlier. Jocko said the why, and it's great. But we have to have more than just intent. So again, we start with intent. Hey, I want that nice Pegasus. Awesome. Well, you have to keep going down further to have IBN be a viable platform for you. The second thing is, again, that network is a platform. So we start looking at things of not, this is what vendor 1 does or vendor 2 does. We start looking at it as an enablement capability. So when we look at, again, a stack of switches, what are they there for? They're there to allow me to connect connectivity for my end users, or they're there to basically just give me power in some cases. We don't care the mechanics of what the switch ports are, what the PoE, all that stuff goes away. Again, we have to figure out the why, the very beginning component. The continuous verification of purpose. That is, again, for us in the room who are a little older, Ronnie Reagan, trust but verify. I trust the network is doing something, but I got to verify that it actually is doing what I ask it to do. And again, that's very important because later on you'll see some of our customers say, but I have that already. I have config management. I have Andy in the corner that just goes and scrapes logs 3 hours a day, every day. I would contend that that's not verification of purpose because it's not automatic and it's always open for interpretation as a human. Then the last one must be vendor inclusive. And again, you're probably scratching your head. Vendor inclusive, what's that term? I've heard we're vendor agnostic or we're a closed solution. And by that one, I mean you have to be aware of what are your existing assets. Again, are you a whole Cisco shop or are you a whole Juniper shop? Maybe you are, maybe you're not. But whatever platform you're going to be creating has to account for the various different companies and vendors and platforms or things you have in your environment and make sure that they all work together. Otherwise, again, great intentions, but you know what the road is that's going to lead you down. So the first challenge that I normally get from our customers are, but Nestor, I already have intent-based networking. I can tell my guys, go give me new VLANs. And they're like, yeah, I can do that. Is that really what I'm trying to espouse for? Not necessarily. So right now, when you make a simple change, I'll give an example of changing a VLAN number or VLAN description. You have to have 10, 100, 1,000 switches. How do you go about doing that? You have to go device by device, or maybe if you have again, config management, you configure a YAML file of some sort and push it out and hope that it actually is going to exist. That's very prescriptive. Again, you're mechanically going switch 1, switch 2, switch 3, and so on and so forth. And when you're doing that, it's very tactical, so you're focused on the singular tree, and you don't have time to stand back and say, what's happening in the forest? Again, the analogy for me would be like California. My tree's alive, it's perfect, it's healthy. Step back. Oh yeah, everything else is on fire. Well, what should I be doing? Should I be focusing on protecting my tree or getting the heck out of there? Again, abstraction. But I like this picture because this is like the normal, when I was an IT admin, you get a room full of people, we're going to implement a change, get the 2 pizzas, as Jeff Bezos would say, and the person in the front, the lady right there, I'm like, what's up with her? What's her life looking like? And I'm like, let's zoom in on her screen, which you can't really see. Oh, look. A lot of us probably have that, 15 putty sessions and trying to remember which one is which, and the probability of errors, high. But the comfort level with our people today, that's what we live in. That's what they think is the norm, and that is my multi-device management, which, again, is not scalable, not repeatable, and honestly, it keeps IT admins, IT managers up at night because you don't know if one of those blew up incorrectly. Then, we've discussed, okay, so we know that intent-based networking might be better than what I have today, but why am I not there? The first thing is existing equipment. So again, if you look at all these new platforms from various vendors, the little asterisk at the bottom, you got to buy all our new stuff. So fancy new widget only supports the latest version of software, latest version of hardware that comes from that manufacturer. Well, what if I have switches and software that I have from 10, 15, 20 years ago? It's still functioning and it runs my business. Well, it won't work in this new paradigm according to each manufacturer. We have to acknowledge how do we bring that into this new world. The second one, lack of awareness. So within our practice, we have something called envisioning engagements. And one of the first exercises that I like to do is, I call it let's do some communal hallucination. If you had all these problems that today, oh, can you implement a network in 10 minutes? Oh, no, I can't for these 55 reasons. Well, what if those reasons went away? What else could you do with your environment or your platform? And then they start thinking, oh, wouldn't it be great if I, had a toilet, again, earlier today, that tells me that my favorite song and temperature and all those other things. Well, today, people think that that's not possible. Well, in the future, when the technology is there, maybe it is. And then the last one, APIs. That's a personal pet peeve of mine. So every vendor you probably see on their little RFP list, what do they say? We got APIs, right? And if I pull the room, We got APIs. How many of you guys are using them? Almost no one. It's sad, because again, just that's a little checkbox that says, yeah, we have them, but if no one uses them, what good are they? And then for the people that do use APIs, they sometimes say, oh, you gave me instrumentation for 15 things, but I want that 16th thing to be the telemetry. That's my critical nugget of information. And because it's not there, they get depressed and they don't implement the solution. So the thing around APIs is be aware that they exist, use them, and if they're not to your liking, complain to us and by association the manufacturer of your platforms, your hardware, give me those things. I want that instrumentation. And then the next challenge that I have is, okay, I bought ACI, I bought NSX, I bought Miracura, or whatever that is. I have intent-based networking. Not quite. Again, all those are software-defined networks. They're overlays. So again, for the technical people, controllers and instantiation down below. SDN, all those platforms focus around the how. How are you using the network? The syntactical syntax. When you go into an APIC controller, give me a new EPG, or in NSX, give me a new security group. That is a human interpreting the intent, pushing buttons, and then just pushing that downstream. The inverse is IBN looks at the network or the platform and says, what are you trying to do with it? And you never go in and create the VLAN or go and create the security group. The system says, oh, so-and-so wanted the network to behave this way. I will do it on your behalf. So again, another buzzword bingo, machine learning. That's really what happens. As the system, the intent-based networking system says, this is what you keep asking of me. You wanted to go faster, or you want to be separate, or you want to be available at 3 in the morning. It learns that that's the behavior that's normal for you, not for my neighbor, not for the other company, for me. And it starts modifying the network appropriately that way. So what are some of the steps? I'm going to move here. So what are some of the steps that actually are underneath intent-based networking? So again, when you peel back the onion, you're installing it, how does it work? Most of the engineers here, they're like, okay, great, you're just giving me PowerPoint slides. What are the actual tactical things? So the first thing, as we've kind of drilled in already for all the other presentations, start with intent. What do you want the network to do? From that, the system will then convert your intent to a list of functions, commands that it's going to execute. That third one is the most important for me. It verifies that the thing won't break your existing environment before it deploys it mathematically. So today, how do we work? Again, back to the earlier example, deploy VLAN 10. We have a coworker of ours. He was reminiscent, gave me a story. He had a customer, and their network is VLAN 1. So again, for those that aren't aware, VLAN 1 is kind of the default network for most places. And so he was trying to stage a change. And he said, okay, well, I'm going to make it VLAN 10, which nobody uses. He's pumping away at the putty session, all happy, fat-fingered it. Instead of VLAN 10 with a bunch of commands, it was VLAN 1 with a bunch of commands. Well, of course, hilarity ensued because the production system went down, unintended. With intent-based networking, that condition wouldn't have occurred because the system says, I know what you're trying to do, but if you do this, all this other stuff breaks in violation of the state of the system. And then once it does do mathematically saying the thing you're asking me for won't break any other rules that are already pre-existing, then it actually implements those changes. And at that point then, you have reached your nirvana of, I want the world to go blue, but I'm not destroying what's already there. And then, again, the trust but verify. You have to keep going back and seeing, is my environment really matching what my intent is? And there, again, some of the challenges I have is, I have Puppet, I have Chef, I have Ansible. Well, what if someone goes in manually and changes a little attribute? Well, those configuration management things will say, oh, it changed from A to B. Roll it back to A. Intent-based networking looks at it and says, well, he changed it from A to B, but that doesn't really affect what I'm trying to do. I'll let it slide, keep on going. And maybe in the future, when you do change your intent, it will reset it. So it keeps you from having this configuration drift, which is a problem that we have in our IT world. Where, again, you look at the configuration, you're like, I don't know why this thing is there. I don't understand it, so I'm going to leave it. Well, here again, there's no applicability for this. Let's rip it out. So why would I leverage IBN? Again, I've told you what it's not, what it is. Now, why am I going to go through all this brain damage? I'm going to buy new switches. I'm going to buy new software. I'm going to retrain my people. Why do I do that? First is security. Again, right now, the attack vectors, before we'd have months or weeks, to kind of troubleshoot, saying something's behaving incorrectly, let's fix it. Now we're down to minutes. We have another customer, shall remain nameless to protect the innocent, but their attack occurred globally, 8 minutes. So from inception to the company is down, it took 8 minutes. Me, being a little bit of a joker, went to the CIO. He's like very frazzled, frazzled and dazzled, and we're like, this is a great example of, look at the connectivity of your network. It took 8 minutes to take you down. He didn't seem to like that. But there again, the thing is that now we have to respond quicker. So if the system can automatically see your state and say, I don't like that, we got to change it, that is one of those tenets there. Second thing is devices coming online. So we have IoT. We have more and more wireless devices. Again, go back 20 years, you go in your switch, you pretty much knew every device that was plugged in. Oh, port 1, that's my mail server. Port 2, this is this server, or the printer. Then came virtualization. Port 1 is attached to a ESX host with 100 boxes behind it. Now, it could be 10, 100, 1,000 devices coming online and offline every minute or every hour. How do you deal with that as a human? It would be a very, very poor experience. Then the last one is probably the one that's most focused on me right now is if you think about who is managing the networks, most of them are baby boomers, in the 50, 60, twilight years of our, we're about to retire. Every day, 10,000 people retire from the workforce, but there's not 10,000 people backfilling them. And if we do find those people, they are extraordinarily hard to find and expensive. With software, they don't take vacation, they don't have inconsistent, a bad day at work, and the incurred cost is, again, controlled. So that's a very important thing where if you can't train the talent, software will kind of short that gap for you. So where do we go from here? First, I would recommend going to our research team. So if you go to trace3.com/research, we actually have what we call a tech brief, a research brief. It outlines some of the players in the space, what are their values, their value propositions, and then you maybe pick one. Say, you know what, this one sounds interesting, or maybe two of them sound interesting. Then engage your sales rep. They can actually then, if you guys don't have time or knowledge to implement it yourselves, they'll bring in one of our teams. So myself or Scott Klink, that our East and West counterparts, or then our execution arms, Bob Brewer and Travis, but I don't know where they are. They can help execute this. And we put it in. On the first phase, we put it in a verification state, so read-only. If you have an IDS, IPS, trust but verify. We're not changing your network, but we're saying, you wanted to do this, your network isn't doing that way. That's nice. And then, again, just lunches and brunches. That's my personal thing. But got 2 minutes left, and I know why you're all here. It's the Super Bowl, so I'll invite the marketing folks to come up with the super secret word.